Okay, another SAT question. If R1 and R2 are two roots of the equation x squared minus 2x minus 1 equals 0, and if R1 is greater than R2, this is important. This one is important. R1 is greater than R2. What is the value of R1 and R2? If R1 is greater than R2, then if R1 is given as greater than R2, then the R1 and R2 represents the roots of this equation, given quadratic equation. Then R1 minus R2 should be positive number, since we are taking the first one, which is the larger one, larger value, and subtract from it the other one, which is smaller value, so it will be positive. Their difference should be positive. For sure, directly we can notice that A and B are not the answers, right? Because A and B are negative values. The difference of R1 and R2 here is negative value. So that's why we don't have to choose these two values. Just put it in your mind. For sure, solving quadratic equation x squared minus 2x minus 1 equals 0, right? It's as this form, right, of the equation, ax squared plus bx, general form of quadratic equation. Okay, here in the equation given, a is equal to 1, b is equal to -2, and c is equal to -1. We should here find delta. Delta is b squared minus 4ac, and where b is -2, so it's -2 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, and times c is given as -1. What is this answer? -2 squared is 4, minus 4 times 1 times -1 is +4, and the answer is 8. So since the answer of delta is 8, which is positive number, this means we have two distinct real roots, not equal roots, not one double root, two distinct real roots, right? Two distinct real roots, which are named R1 and R2 here in this example. This means delta not equal to 0. If delta equal to 0, the roots are equal. The R1 and R2 are equal. This means their difference is equal to 0. So no, the difference is not 0. So my answer will probably be either D or E. All right? Let's find the roots. Okay. Alpha is the first root. One of the roots is equal. By rule, it's given minus B minus radical delta over 2A. Okay? And B is -2, so minus B is 2, minus radical delta, sorry, minus radical delta is 8, so it's minus radical 8 over 2A, 2 times 1, which is equal to 2. Now, radical 8 is what? Is radical 4 times 2, and 4 given, we can have an answer outside the radical here, which is 2, and radical 2 stays inside. This radical 2 stays inside the radical. So the answer is 2 minus 2 radical 2 over 2. And here we can have 2 as common factor. 2 divided by 2 is 1, minus 2 radical 2 divided by 2 is radical 2 over 2. Simplify, and we will have the answer as 1 minus radical 2. Leave it now. Let's find the other root, which is beta. Beta is equal to what? It's minus b plus radical delta over 2a. Minus b means 2 plus radical delta, and the radical delta we found it as 2 radical 2, which is radical 8 over 2. We do the same thing. 2 is common, 1 plus radical 2, just to simplify the answer, have it more simplified, so it will be 1 plus radical 2. Now, which one is more? Is 1 plus radical 2 more than 1 minus radical 2? For sure. This is 1 added to it, radical 2. And alpha is 1 subtracted from it, radical 2. So 1 plus radical 2 considered as R1 because it's more than 1 minus radical 2, and we consider it as R2. We find the roots R1 and R2. R1 is 1 plus radical 2, and R2 is 1 minus radical 2. So what is R1 minus R2? The larger one minus the smaller one. Okay, make sure that you put these parentheses, otherwise we will have different answer. 1 plus, and probably one of the answers here, 1 plus radical 2 minus multiplied with 1, it's minus 1, minus multiplied with minus radical 2, it's a plus radical 2, subtract the 1. The correct answer is 2 radical 2, and for this question the correct answer is D. So this is the first question. Okay, now let's go to the second question. If x squared plus 5x plus c, which is quadratic equation also, equals 0, has exactly one solution, what is the value of c? We need to find c, and c could be one of those. When we say has exactly one solution, that means delta should be equal to 0. X squared plus 5x plus c equals 0, where a in this case equal the coefficient of x squared, which is 1, b the coefficient of x, which is 5, and c the coefficient, the constant coefficient, which is c, given by c, and we need to find it. Since we have exactly one solution, first let's find delta. Delta is equal to what? It's b squared minus 4ac. b is given as 5 squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is c. My answer is 25 minus 4c. Now, since we have exactly one solution, means one root, and that happens only when delta is 0. When delta is 0, we have one root. So my delta here, it should be 0. And delta, we find it as 25 minus 4c, and should be equal to 0. This means in this case, minus 4c equal negative 25, taking the 25 to the other side of the equality, it will be negative 25, or we can subtract 25 from both sides, it gives us the same result, right? So what is c now? C, we should find c. Dividing both sides by negative 4, because negative 4 is multiplied with c, to get rid of this negative 4 and to have c alone. So we do what? We divide by negative 4 both sides, for when we multiply both sides by 1 over negative 3, then c in this case will be negative over negative. For sure it's positive. 25 divided by 4, it's 6 quarter. C is 6.25. And what is the correct answer here? It's E. This is the correct answer. See you next video.